Romans chapter 2 tonight. We are jumping off the back of verse 11. We talked last couple of weeks about the Jewish people and how they looked down on other people. They thought they were literally above the law of God and had the right to look down on other people and judge them for their sins and their actions or the lack thereof, and therefore make themselves seem better, and therefore they were literally self-righteous people, and by that they made themselves feel better in front of God. But God actually frowns upon that and says that, hey, we've all messed up, and your judging of others actually only confirms that you are too also just as sinful as the person that rapes and murders and commits adultery and lies and steals. You're just as bad. Your heart is just as broken, maybe because of their circumstances or whatever has led them to a certain lifestyle, but just as bad we are. So we are not called to judge others. And that's exactly what the Jewish people were doing. And so we read on from verse 11, which says, "For God does not show favoritism." And I love that verse because many people think that there's somehow some magical formula to be more of a favorite than someone else. That if you're a PK or you grew up in the church or you know a bit more about church politics or whatever, that you somehow have more favor. No, there is no favoritism. God looks upon everyone based on what Jesus Christ did through the cross. And so the only thing that gains favor before God is faith in what Jesus Christ did on the cross. Then that faith in Jesus Christ changes your heart, your actions change, and you start to live on the reverse of how the kingdom of this world lives. And so it's so important for you to understand that you shouldn't look upon other people and compare your life to them. You should just look at Jesus and let God change your life and then act accordingly. And so in verse 12 it says, "All who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law, and all who sin under the law will be judged by the law. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteous." So God is not so much interested in whether you know all the law or whether you hear it every week. He's more interested in our actions out of that heart. So if you do the law, he's like, wow, you're righteous. But if you just know the law but do nothing about it, you're hypocritical. Verse 14 says, "Indeed, when Gentiles..." We're going to move a bit quicker tonight. I want to get through chapter 2, so let's really focus in. "Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law." Okay, so what does that mean? Basically means that every human being is born with a conscience. And so your heart will tell you by its natural creation from God, because you're made in the image of God, what is right or wrong. And so you may not know the Jewish law and the 613 commandments that were created through Moses, but your heart, when you go to eat McDonald's, the Big Mac will say, "Don't do it." I was on a plane the other weekend, and I sat next to a heart surgeon who sits on the board for Australia for heart transplants, and he said one of his best mates is a nutritionist and has had a Big Mac in her drawer for 10 years and nothing has grown on it. Nothing has grown on the Big Mac for 10 years. If it was healthy and organic, that would be full of mold and just totally natural, because things can grow. But there's so much junk in that stuff. You got to understand, this is a side point. A lot of your emotions and a lot of what you're going through right now is because of what you eat. If you stay healthy and eat the right food and do a little bit of exercise and drink a bit of water, your emotional buoyancy in life will actually be a little bit better. It doesn't save you, it doesn't set you free from sin, but it sure helps your emotions. And so when Georgie knows when I'm really cranky, the first question she asks is not, how was your day? She says, "Have you eaten any food today?" And then we go from there. And so basically, if you eat the right food, have lots of fluid, a lot of young adults, I think, are so depressed and so down. No, I'm not talking about clinical depression or anything that's been diagnosed. I'm not making a stab at that at all. But our diets in society right now are so full of junk that we have no brain power to overcome just natural things that head our way. Someone calls you and says, I don't have those shoes in that store anymore, and you break down and cry, and God's not on the throne anymore. Well, we gotta look at what's going on there. Life's a little bit bigger than that. So anyway, just a side note, maybe just go for a walk, have a bottle of water, and life will be a whole lot better. So, our heart has a conscience, and so the reason we know this is you look at history, right? Even the most ungodly nation, without Jesus being at the center of that nation, you will see that in and of itself, as a nation, even as an ungodly nation, will still have a certain level of law in that place. It's not just totally free. That's because man in and of itself says, okay, by my conscience, I will allow this, this, and this. Our conscience gets stretched, but there is a definite understanding of right and wrong. It may not be what God wants, but there's definitely a feeling of right and wrong. So therefore, what Paul is saying and what God has designed through the Gentiles, which is you and I, who are not Jews here, he's saying you'll be judged based on that conscience if you live by that conscience. Verse 15 says, since they show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts now accusing, now even defending them. This will take place on the day when God will judge men's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares. So a day will come based either because you lived under the law and you said, okay, I'm going to place myself under law. I'm going to only eat certain foods. I'm only going to dress certain ways. I'm not going to have tattoos. I'm not going to shave. I'm not going to have all this stuff going on. So God goes, okay, that's the way you want to live? Great, I will judge you by that law. If you don't want to be under the law, the other option is to live by your heart. And if your heart condemns you, then you are judged under that conscience. But the day will come when God will see all that's done in secret, and that means good and bad, which is a very scary thought. So on that day, everything will be revealed, and Jesus will see everything that you've done in the secret, whether it is serving someone that no one knows about, giving some money to someone that really needs it, or helping them, or praying for the sick, and you've told no one. Well, God says, great. If you do that in the secret, I'm going to reward that, because you're not looking for favor from man. You're looking to what that person's heart is all about, and God will see that. But on the flip side, God will also see everything that we've done in secret and told no one. We've kept it in the dark, whatever it may be, the sins, the lies, and we've all got them. But those things will be revealed as well on that day. That's going to be a big day.